All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Black Desert video. My name is John, and I just want to say thank you guys so much for all the support on the videos lately. I do appreciate it, and I wanted to continue on with one final part of the best spots for blank. So we recently did the best spots for XP, and leveling, of course, goes together, and the best spots for silver. So we've done that. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check out those videos already. A lot of you guys seem to like it, so I hope it helps you all going forward throughout the next year and everything. And today I wanted to wrap up this mini series with the best spots to use for Agris. As you guys know, Agris could actually be a huge game changer in a lot of spots. So I think that it's probably interesting to talk about. They do have a tag that you could just use and find all the spots that are good for Agris, which we'll be doing. So I want to start with the Agris tag, which the game labels as good, and then we'll talk about the things in AP order for the rest of you as we do. So first of all, I want to say the way you get Agris, assuming you are a new player, let me just run down this real quick. So you do your adventure journal, and it's one of these that actually you just do the quest line and it gives you more Agris. So you get like it starts at like 5,000 and you build up to being able to get, or like 20,000 and you build up to 100,000 total. So the reason why this is important is you see in the tooltip here, it tells you when defeating monsters increases your like trash loot by 150%. So that's really good, and generally in using this could actually just double your money. So a good example would be Kratuga before they kind of nerfed it. It's not bad now, but I mean, like, some spots are just really good. So as usual, we're gonna look at the tags for all of this because these are the ones the games has decided is good, and we'll talk about them. So all right, so let's just go down the order of what the game thinks is good. Aakman Temple. So if you are grinding Aakman and Hystria, this is a place that I think is actually really good. I think if you were to use it, I'd probably go with Hystria more than Aakman, just because the trash loot there is worth a little bit more. And for the same AP level, you're probably going to get more out of Hystria than Aakman at the same 250 zone. But realistically, if you're there, you're probably going for the ancient red power shards if you were an endgame player, because you are trying to craft Debarekas. And of course, the upgraded compass parts, which is for the permanent compass, which is actually getting a buff in the near future after they talked about that in the Calpheon Ball. So I don't think Aakman is bad for Agris. I just think if you're going to grind in the desert somewhere, I think Hystria is a little bit better for that. These are both 250 areas and connect in a way. So Aakman's not bad. I'd give it like, I don't know, 6 out of 10. Centaurs. Oh boy, I have a lot to say about this one. So, as we all know, Centaurs is probably the strongest Agris spot for a beginner to intermediate level player with an AP requirement of like 190. I've seen people do it with less, and I've seen people go in with a lot more. Centaurs is actually a very good spot. So if a beginner player just trying to make competitive silver to, I guess, higher upper endgame players, I wouldn't say it's like highest, but it's very good for an entry level player, or like if you're just casually playing on seasons, you're going to make a lot of silver here. However, this is kind of blocked by Agris, so yeah, it's a very good spot. I would recommend everyone to do it if you are just trying to look for a chill grind and you need silver. Admittedly, the environment is one of those things where, in my opinion, I always like grinding places like Kama Sylvia because, you know, like, grinding in a desert is kind of like mentally draining, whereas grinding in the like forest where there's color and everything just seems a lot nicer. That's just me, but Centaur's kind of out in the desert, but it is good silver, so that kind of just like outweighs a lot of stuff. Crescent Shrine. This place has been dead since like 2018. Admittedly, I haven't grinded here, but they mark it as the Agris tag. Let's see how much the trash loot is. 10,000. Would I recommend going here in general, just throughout my knowledge of this game? Probably not. So Crescent Rings, unless they buff the actual drop rate of the accessory in the past year, the answer is no. The reason why is if you're at 140, you're probably better off going to somewhere else like Polly's Forest, which is, I think that's like 160, but like anything under 200 can be obtained in like a few days, even as a completely new player, maybe like a week or two if you're brand new. So would I recommend Crescent Shrine? Probably not, because one, you kind of have to go out of your way, and as a new player, going down to Crescents is like you still have to cross the desert and go in here. So it's one of those things that I just can't recommend, because like it's out of the way. The silver is probably not that great, even with Agris. You're probably better off still going to like Centaurs, even if you're at like 170, and you'll probably make more money at Centaurs than Crescents. So it's one of those weird things. That's just from my opinion. They may market as an Agris place, but it's probably not good. There's a lot of other places, even non-Agris spots you can go to that'll be fine. But admittedly, I haven't been there, so it could be really good. I just, from my experience years ago, it wasn't. Darkseekers Retreat. This is the newest spot that came into the Ulukita area. Is this place good for Agris? Yeah, it's good. But I don't think people are grinding here necessarily for the silver. I have about probably 60 hours in here. I did get 3 artifacts, so I finished 100 pities and then got 2 straight drops while going for the flame. You guys can see that video for how to craft the Ator shoes and everything. I have that video. But in my opinion, like the higher end players, obviously this is a very high gear score requirement spot. You are grinding exclusively for the artifact and the flames, and of course the like embers and fragments. But the trash loot here is about, if you're using Agris, it's not terrible, but for the like AP requirement and stat gear check you have to do, it's probably not worth it. But if you are grinding here, Agris is fine. In my opinion, my average, assuming I didn't really get too many pity pieces or like obviously the 10 mil lottery drop, it's probably around 700 mil an hour, assuming you don't get any of these. But I've definitely had very solid hours where I made way over 1 billion. But yeah, spot's fine. It does have a pretty high gear check, and that's about it. Gahaz Bandits. This one is the spot that is all the way up here. So it is a little out of the way. It was good a few years ago, and I think they actually buffed it recently, but it's one of those things that was good a few years ago, but nowadays it probably lost its touch a little bit. Don't get fooled by the trash loot. Even with Agris, it's not terrible, but you're not getting a lot out of it. So I still think if you're into 140 plus range, you're probably still better off like finishing up a few more seasonal things and just going to Centaurs, which isn't out in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, I don't think this spot is bad. I remember grinding here for hundreds of hours back in the day, and I don't know. There's a lot of things you could go for out here, but I just don't think it's top tier anymore. Upper Gyfin. Now, this one's actually a really tricky one to talk about because Agris is fine, and I think the trash loot is okay. I think overall, Upper Gyfin is a very solid spot. The hardest part about these spots in general is this is a group spot, so the hardest part is getting 4 other people plus yourself, and then you have to kind of split the loot. So, like, you know, if you grind in a party, there's like free looting versus party distribution, where if you get like a belt or something, it'll just be automatically listed on the central market, and then it divides the silver up by your party. So that's the weird thing. The Agris will only affect your trash loot, and if you're at the 270 area, It's okay, but I think a majority of the silver comes from like Capra stones and all the other things instead of trash loot, to the point where I don't know if I'd recommend using Agris here. It's not bad, but like I'd rather grind a solo spot with Agris where I'm getting more silver out of it, if that makes sense. But like if you're barely grinding and your Agris is always capped out every day, I'd recommend all of you try not to cap out your Agris, because that's just like lighting silver on fire. No matter what, even if you don't feel like grinding for a day and you're getting 20,000 Agris, just go gather something. Like just go chop trees for 15 minutes or something, and then use your Agris there, and then you'll get more materials and you can just sell it. It's not a big deal. But yeah, go upper Gyfin. I struggle to recommend it, but I think the grind spot in general is good. All right, next we have Hystria Ruins. I have spent probably over 400 hours going for my compass piece, and I know pretty much every single rotation down like the back of my hand. I think this is a very good spot for Agris, honestly. And they actually buffed the trash loot within the past like 6 months, I believe. But realistically, a lot of the silver you make comes from Capra stones, shards, and accessory drops and everything else. And of course, you get a lot of ancient scrolls. But I think on average, if you are using Agris, you'll probably be making between 20 to 25k trash loot an hour, which is not bad. It's like around 400 to 500 mil for a 250 spot. I think it's very solid. But yeah, a lot of your silver is coming from like the scrolls, if you were to run it and everything, Capra stones and accessories. But I think this is a very solid spot in general. I have way more time in this spot than basically any other spot in the game. All right, so next we got Jade Starlight Forest. This spot is the place you go for the flame for your Labresca helmet. I think it's a very solid spot. I think this might actually be in my like top 3 in terms of how much trash loot you'll get for Agris. And you could get like from the elites probably upwards like 200 plus from Agris usage. And although this spot is like kind of out of the way, you're mostly there for the flame and embers for your Labresca helmet. But this has been out for a couple years to this point where I think if you can just buy the flame from the market instead of grinding it out, it's probably a little bit better. The artifacts are relevant nowadays, but yeah, it's very good silver, but one of those 280 spots you kind of have to go out of your way to grind versus going somewhere else. Trash loot, pretty good with Agris, definitely in the top 3. You probably do need a little bit of weight or know how to horse stack your trash loot, because you will be getting a lot. I think there are people with like 50,000 or something really high in terms of the trash loot that you can get out of here. So just keep in mind that this is a good spot, but you need a lot of weight. Kratuga. So I think this spot is okay now, but there's a lot of like catches with it. So overall, if you're just grinding here for like artifacts, I think that's great. Cool. This spot is really good with Agris. This, like, actually, I'm pretty sure broke some records and numbers of how much trash loot people can get in an hour. So pre-nerf, this spot was like, I think I've seen people get like 140,000 trash loot in 1 hour. You had to be in the Marnie realm. You had to also be running Agris full time. And then they nerfed it like a month later. And then now I think the average is like, it's still pretty high, like 80 to 90,000 trash loot. But I don't think this is a bad spot. It's just okay now, or I guess it's still like above average in my opinion. I think it's a really good spot. So either way, I think this is one of those things you still have to use the Marnie realm, but it might match the regular one. I haven't really been in there since they toned this place down, but I remember it being really good and then nerfed. So you do have to use Agris here. Very good spot. Olun's. Admittedly, I only have probably about 30 to 40 hours in this spot. So when this spot first came out, this spot was where people would recommend using Agris only on the arms. But nowadays, I think people just keep the Agris on for the entire hour. I feel like this is a spot where you're not particularly grinding for trash loot. You're more going for like the Rich Merchant Ring, or if you're doing Dekia, of course, the Deboreka earring. So yeah, it's like the trash loot is, if you can find a decent group, even on regular Oluns, probably around like 800 to a billion silver an hour. You do get a lot of Capra stones in here, and I guess I don't think Alukas are really worth making. I think it's like not like breaking even in terms of silver, but it's not great. So you also get the Right Lung and the Ashen Leaves, which are, if you're going for your Orzeka stuff, that's pretty solid. I think this is a very good spot for it. But overall, you get a lot of silver from Venomous Nightfangs if you run it with your group, and that's also an annoying thing to do because you have, like, to make the most out of your silver, you run it in groups of like 5, and then that's what people call like a 5x5 full group. Everyone runs their fangs. You get a lot of silver and Capris and stuff you can sell out of it. So in my opinion, yes, you do. Agris is good here, but it's not like one of those places you are particularly going for silver for. You're going for like literally everything else, plus the Rich Merchant Ring, of course. And then all these spots, Padix Island, that place is still garbage. Like, if you're here, you're going for the Rich Merchant Ring. That's about it. It's just out of the way. Padix Island, if you don't know where that is, it is over here. Remember Pirate Island back in like 2016? This place would be like PvP Central. Everyone would be fighting over the rotations. PvP, Guild War, decks, and everything just happened here. And now that is no longer the case. So Padix, I think in my opinion, from the few hours I've grinded here, it's about like 500 mil an hour, but for like a 270 spot, that's not really that good. So the reason why you're here is for the Rich Merchant Ring. One of those pieces drop here. And it's just kind of out of the way. One thing I can say, though, this is just more like an endgame player tip or someone who actually cares, is if you have the tier 10 unicorn, the one that runs on water, you can actually run from like over here-ish and then island hop all the way to Paddock, so you don't have to boat there. But this is one of those like I guess RNG carried things. If you have a tier 10 unicorn, you could do that instead of boating, and it's a lot faster. But at the same time, like, it's just one of those things that you still have to go out of your way for, and it's not really worth it. So Shultz guards haven't been there since like 2017. I know they buffed it, and then it went from a solo spot to a group spot. Man, I just don't know. Like, for 220, I think like Centaurs is just straight up still better, and it's a solo spot. So admittedly, I haven't tested this in many years, so I don't actually know. But when I see anything with a party spot, I automatically think that like that's the hardest part, and I'd rather just grind a solo spot. So is it good with Agris? I have no idea. Haven't been there. Tunkuda, as people call Turos, is it's always been a party of 2 spot plus Agris. Actually, I don't know if it's always been Agris, but I remember grinding out 100 embers and I got a straight flame drop back years ago. So in terms of trash loot, it's okay. Like, I don't think this is the best spot, but if you're gonna grind here anyway because you are going for your Fallen God armor, I think it's probably fine. The turbo belts don't drop regularly. I'll be honest. I think I get 1 belt every like 5+ hours. So if you're going in here, you really do have to be in a party of 2, just because any group or like any spot with a party of 2+, generally you should be grinding there. And I know people that do it solo. That's just inefficient. So yeah, one of those things where I think if you are 270 plus, and you're not going for the Flame of Despair or Turo belts, just grind somewhere else. You could buy Turo belts off the market. At least I think you can. And, well, actually, yeah, they're not even max price, so I'm pretty sure they're sitting. And then I think, yeah, 270 plus, you might as well just grind at Elvia spots, and then you'll be fine. So is it good? Yeah. But is it recommended outside of going for specific items? Probably not. So in my opinion, the highlight spots that I would recommend for Agris, obviously Centaurs. I guess if you're at the point and you are at Darkseekers, it's not bad. Hystria Ruins is very solid. Jade, Starlight Forest, definitely up there in the top 3. Kratuga is still pretty solid. It's not as good as it used to be, but there it is. So, and then the rest of them is just like, okay, if you have it. But yeah, top 5, Jade, Starlight, Kratuga, Darkseekers, Centaurs, and Hystria. Those are what I would pick. And I think I was going to go down the list of all of these, but like, now that I really think of it, there's really no point. Like, I don't think I could think of anything that the game hasn't already recommended. So, yeah, I was just doing a quick sweep of everything, and yeah, I think the game got it right, and it did a good job at just recommending everything. So, I think that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, drop a quick like on the video. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you don't know, if this is your first video of mine, I've been playing this game for almost 8 years. Back in the day, I didn't have any guides to help me. I just kind of had to learn all this information myself. So if you are looking for any advice on how to improve in this game, hopefully my videos do help. And with that said, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow for more updated videos and a lot of other stuff I want to revisit in the future. So, see you guys later. Have a fantastic day.